over 100 people reported sightings of the Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, between 1966 and 1967. Many of whom stated they saw the Mothman and experienced ear and eye trauma. On the day of the infamous Silver Bridge collapse, several people reported seeing the Mothman flying above the bridge. The Mothman sightings in and around Point Pleasant ceased on December 15, 1967, the same day as the Silver Bridge collapse. There were reported sightings of the Mothman before the Chernobyl disaster on April 26, 1986. On September 10, 1978, a mine collapsed in Freiburg, Germany, resulting in the loss of many lives. 21 miners who were due to work that day were scared away by the sight of a Mothman-type creature at the entrance of the mine, which became known as the Freiburg Shrieker. While Mothman sightings were first reported in America in 1966, Mothman reports in other countries started much earlier. A figure resembling the Mothman, referred to as the Man-Dragon, was seen by several people in the region of the Zion T Dam in China in early January 1926. On January 19, the dam collapsed and over 15,000 people lost their lives in the flooding.
Because of her transgressions during her previous life, she is reborn as a ghost that must live off of rotten or uncooked food. The Krasue is cursed to always feel hunger and to only be able to feed at night. To satisfy its ceaseless hunger, the Krasue flies around in the night, looking for blood and raw flesh to devour. It is known to attack cows and chickens while their owners are sleeping. The Krasue will also eat carrion or even feces if there is no fresh blood and flesh to eat. Thai people also believe that it's a bad idea to leave your clothes hanging outside overnight because the Krasue might just come by and wipe the feces and blood from her mouth on them. Thai legend also warns against people falling asleep with open wounds because the Krasue will smell the blood, like a shark, and come to devour the person. Apparently, by planting spiky bamboo around your house or by building a spiky fence, you can deter the Krasue from entering your home. It's scared of spiky things because it fears that it will get its intestines caught on them and not be able to escape. During the day, however, the Krasue is not a floating head, but rather a normal-looking human being just like anyone else. Though it hides the headless body that it came from during the night hours, it rejoins that body at sunrise and walks through the crowds undetected. However, it must ensure that it hides its body in a safe place, because the Krasue will die if it cannot rejoin with its body before daybreak. If the Krasue's body is destroyed or hidden by someone, then the Krasue will desperately search for another body and then, eventually, rejoin with the wrong body. At that point, it will experience horrible pain until it eventually dies. Also, if it does not find a body at all before the sun comes up, it will suffer a painful death. Some Thai people believe that the Krasue can also be killed by cutting off its intestines or by burning it.
The snollygaster was described as half reptile, half bird, having a metallic beak lined with razor-sharp teeth, occasionally alongside octopus-like tentacles. The snollygaster was rumored to swoop silently from the sky to pick up and carry off its victims. 7 pointed stars, which reportedly kept the snollygaster at bay, can still be seen painted on barns. The snollygaster had a horrible sulfuric smell and a blood-curdling roar. The earliest stories claimed that this monster sucked the blood of its victims. A group of lumberjacks claimed to have come upon one of the creature's nests, which was perched on a high cliff and contained an egg, big enough to hatch a horse. It has been suggested the legend was resurrected in the 19th century to frighten freed slaves. Sightings of the snollygaster were creating such a commotion that at one point it was reported that President Theodore Roosevelt might postpone a trip to Europe so that he could lead an expedition to capture it and claim its hide. According to legend, the snollygaster was flying near Frog Hollow in Washington County when it was attracted by the aroma of a 2,500-gallon vat of moonshine. As the beast flew overhead, it was overcome by the fumes and dropped into the boiling mash. A short time later, revenue agents arrived on the scene. They had received information about the still, but were rather startled at the sight of the dead monster in the vat. The agents exploded 500 pounds of dynamite under the still, destroying the remains.
The Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation, its desiccated skin pulled tightly over its bones. With its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody, unclean and suffering from suppuration of the flesh. The Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. In some traditions, humans overpowered by greed could turn into Wendigos. The myth thus served as a method of encouraging cooperation and moderation. Other sources say Wendigos were created when a human resorted to cannibalism to survive. Humans could also turn into Wendigos by being in contact with them for too long. The Algonquian people say that during the turn of the 20th century, a large number of their people went missing. The tribes attributed many of the mysterious disappearances to the Wendigo, thus calling him the spirit of lonely places. Another rough translation of Wendigo is the evil spirit that devours mankind. Once he has infiltrated their minds, he can turn them into Wendigos as well, instilling upon them a similar lust for human flesh. Although, in many recorded cases of Wendigo psychosis, the individual has been killed to prevent cannibalism from resulting. Some Cree folklore recommends treatment by ingestion of fatty animal meats or drinking animal grease. Those treated may sometimes vomit ice as part of the curing process. One of the more famous cases of Wendigo psychosis reported involved the Plains Cree trapper from Alberta named Swift Runner. During the winter of 1878, Swift Runner and his family were starving, and his eldest son died, 25 miles away from emergency food supplies at a Hudson's Bay Company post. Swift Runner butchered and ate his wife and 5 remaining children. Given that he resorted to cannibalism so near to food supplies, and that he killed and consumed the remains of all those present, it was revealed that Swift Runner's was not a case of pure cannibalism as a last resort to avoid starvation, but rather of a man with Wendigo psychosis. He eventually confessed and was executed by authorities at Fort Saskatchewan. Another well-known case of Wendigo psychosis was Jack Fiddler, an Ojibwe chief and medicine man known for his powers at defeating Wendigos. In some cases, this entailed killing people with Wendigo psychosis. As a result, in 1907, Fiddler and his brother Joseph were arrested by the Canadian authorities for homicide. Jack committed suicide, but Joseph was tried and sentenced to life in prison. He ultimately was granted a pardon but died 3 days later in jail before receiving the news of this pardon. Other Native American versions of the creature spoke of a gigantic spirit over 15 feet tall that had once been human but had been transformed into a creature by magic. Though the descriptions of the creature vary slightly, the Wendigo is generally said to have glowing eyes, long yellowed fangs, terrible claws, and overly long tongues. Sometimes they are described as having sallow, yellowish skin, and other times they are covered with matted hair. The creature is said to have several skills and powers, including stealth, is a near-perfect hunter, knows and uses every inch of its territory, and can control the weather through dark magic. They are also portrayed as simultaneously gluttonous and emaciated from starvation. Wendigo creature sightings are still reported, especially in northern Ontario, near the Cave of the Wendigo, and around Kenora, where traders have allegedly spotted it, trackers and trappers for decades. Many still believe that the Wendigo roams the woods and the prairies of northern Minnesota and Canada. Many have given Kenora, Ontario, Canada the title of Wendigo capital of the world. Sightings of the creature in this area have continued well into the new millennium.
The lizard man of Scours Swamp is said to inhabit areas of swampland in and around Lee County, South Carolina, along with the sewers in towns near the swamp. It has been described as having green, scaly skin with either red or orange eyes and 3-fingered webbed hands. It stood about 7 feet tall and had a stride of around 40 inches. Many theories have been presented in relation to the identity of lizard men, theories such as living dinosaurs, and even offshoots of evolution in which the reptilian hierarchy continued to evolve along the same path as early primates. Although no reptilian species known to man have shown signs of such advanced evolution, the reptiles are the oldest and most successful group of species on the planet and could hold secrets that have yet to come to light. In Lee County, South Carolina, a strange reptilian humanoid was reported on several occasions. According to myths and tales of the southeastern Indians, the creek encountered a human-sized lizard monster in the area. Several natives were out together and formed a hunting camp. A hunter came back one evening and said, "I have found a big bear tree." He told the rest of the hunters, and they said to one another, "Tomorrow morning we will set out, build a fire there, and smoke the she-bear out so that we can see her." They slept, and next day started off and came to the place. When they got to where the big tree stood, it looked as if something lived there, and they said to one another, "A bear surely lives here," so they started a fire under it. The smoke filled up the hollow inside, and soon a big lizard came out. The people saw it and ran away. The big lizard jumped down and gave chase. It ran along till it caught one of them and came back with him. It came with him to the big tree and threw him down into it. Then it chased another and did the same to each in turn, overtook, caught, and brought him back. Only one was left. It chased him, and after it had gone a long distance, overtook him and brought him back. When it was coming through a place where the trees were thick, a tiger or panther was lying asleep in it. When the big lizard got there with the man, the panther awoke and jumped upon it. The lizard let the man go and jumped upon the panther in turn, and they began to fight. The man saw this, jumped up, and ran away. Of the people who had gone far away from their homes to hunt, only one came back. He told his people how the big lizard had killed all of the others, but it was the report by Christopher Davis, a 17-year-old local man, that made the lizard man famous. Davis said he encountered the creature while driving home from work at 2 in the morning on June 29, 1988. According to his account, Davis stopped on a road bordering Scaper Swamp in order to change a tire which had blown out. When he was finishing up, he reported having heard a thumping noise from behind him and having turned around to see the creature running towards him. Davis said the creature tried to grab at the car and then jumped on its roof as he tried to escape, clinging onto it as Davis swerved from side to side in an effort to throw it off. After he returned home, Davis' side view mirror was found to be badly damaged and scratch marks were found on the car's roof, though there was no other physical evidence of his encounter. I looked back and saw something running across the field towards me. It was about 25 yards away, and I saw red eyes glowing. I ran into the car, and as I locked it, the thing grabbed the door handle. I could see him from the neck down. The 3 big fingers, long black nails, and green rough skin. It was strong and angry. I looked in my mirror and saw a blur of green running. I could see his toes, and then he jumped on the roof of my car. I thought I heard a grunt, and then I could see his fingers through the front windshield, where they curled around on the roof. I sped up and swerved to shake the creature off.